Well, a very warm welcome into the huddle this week. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm the host, Philip Marsh. As always, we're back with another Saturday episode, and we've got lots to get through today, lots of exciting talks, Week 11 games. We've got some reaction to Thursday night football as well. But just before we get into all of it, as I say at the start of most episodes, please make sure to go and check over the fantastic online content at HuddleUK.com. We've had some really interesting stories this week. I laughed to myself because we've had a sermon written about Tyler Shuck from Steve, our Saints writer. We've also had a 7-part Shakespearean play about Joe Flacco and the impact he's had at the Bengals. Some really creative, interesting stuff to go and look at. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to click subscribe. Go follow us on all social medias at Join the Huddle UK. And that's the ending of the plugs right at the start. You'll be aware if you've been following this podcast for a while, we're partnered with a few different groups. We're partnered with Ludo Bars in the Southwest. So if you're in Bath, Cardiff, those sort of areas, make sure to go check out Ludo Bars. But the other one who's been our longest partner is Fantasy Gameday. And I'm sure at this point, if you're a UK fan of the NFL, you'll heard of Fantasy Gameday. If not, here's your introduction. Here's your welcome. Joining the huddle to start off this episode is one of the co-founders of the app, Gurmeet. Gurmeet, how are you doing? Welcome back into the huddle.
Thank you for having me back on.
It's been a pleasure. I've had some unsuccessful weeks. I have to hold my hand up. We give our tips and tricks every week on Saturday or Sunday over at HuddleUK.com. Jake, our DFS writer, has been fantastic, actually. He's been pretty spot on for a good few weeks, with the exception is we both went quite heavy in week 9 on Roma Dunze when the Bears were playing the Cowboys, and they put up some 40 points. And we were like, this is perfect. This matchup is going to be amazing. And Roma Dunze scored 0 points. He had fewer catches than Caleb Williams, which was a real kick in the teeth seeing Caleb Williams catch a touchdown when Dunze blanked, because the rest of our team was flying. But when your captain gets no points, you're screwed, aren't you? So, yeah, that was a fun one a couple of weeks ago. But we're having you on today because there's a new game on the app called Triple Crown. I've just been having a little look at it. I'll let you introduce it and what it's all about.
Yeah, we're really excited to launch Triple Crown. We've been working for many months on this game and making sure we get it right. It's our first ever pick'em game, so it's different. It's a departure from the daily fantasy contests that we have offered since launching the business. And it's quite straightforward. It's also the cheapest game we have to enter. It's £2 to enter. Also 15 entries. Normally for DFS, we have 5 entries max. Each week, we will give an option of 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, and 3 wide receivers. And all you've got to do is pick one player from each group that you think will score the most fantasy points. So if you guess all 3 correctly, you win and quite simply split the prize pool with whoever else gets it right. So there's no leaderboard, there's no tier points or structures like that. It's pretty simple. If there's £1,000 in the prize pool, and 10 people guessed correctly, 100 quid each. And yeah, we had a soft launch on the app last week, which we didn't really tell anyone about, but a few people must have downloaded our latest update and played along, and it all went smoothly. So yeah, this week we're a full go and we're really excited about it. Please download the latest app update to see Triple Crown. If you're using the old app and you log on there today, you won't see it. So please download the latest version. Whenever we release a new game and a really, a big app update, it does require the latest version. And so that's enough of me blabbering on.
No, not at all. And I've got the latest app. If you go on YouTube, it should look about like this, where you have the 3 different boxes. And as I said, it sounds really easy. So there's 3 options. You've got a 1 in 3 chance for each of them, 1 in 27. But last week when you had the soft launch, it was Breece Hall, wasn't it, who was the top scoring running back? And it's going to be players like that who catch people out.
That's it. I mean, look, fantasy football is unpredictable by its nature. We did want to have an easier game. Daily fantasy is complex and you need to know a lot about all the players. This is 9 players selecting 3, so it's pretty quick. But yeah, look, it's a game of skill. It's never going to be easy. There could be that one player you pick and you think it's a lock. I think like Justin Jefferson, for example, we had on our soft launch last week, and statistically, over half the people selected Justin Jefferson at wide receiver. He got the least fantasy points. So that's how it goes.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it this week because obviously you're the co-founder and you don't know what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen, but I'm curious to get your takes on it. Your three quarterbacks that you've selected this week: Baker Mayfield, Caleb Williams, and my sweetheart Justin Herbert for the Chargers. So Caleb Williams against the Vikings, Justin Herbert against the Jags, and Baker Mayfield against the Buffalo Bills. You'll see when you go on the app yourself, but it loads with one option in the middle, and then you can swipe left or right to find the other two. Which way do you lean? I see Justin Herbert. I immediately just want to click Justin Herbert because he's been great, but the offensive line is terrible and it's really scary. Baker playing the Bills. The Bills are a strange team. We don't really know if they are elite. And then Caleb Williams has had some really high scoring weeks, but divisional matchup against the Vikings, it's a tough one. Who do you think? Not that you know, but which way would you lean?
Talking about it in this context excites me. This is exactly the conversations we want NFL fans in the UK to have. You know, it's quick. There's just three players to talk about, but I think that's a lot of fun. I don't know. And I probably this is the kiss of death right here. I would go Baker. I would go Baker because I think it will be a high scoring game. They had a tough loss to the Patriots last week. If it was an NFL contest, I'd go Herbert because the guy's been great, but sometimes doesn't correspond to fantasy points, as we all know. I'd go Baker, but hey, what do I know?
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. The running backs, a trio of solid running backs here. Josh Jacobs for the Packers against the Giants. You've got Bijan Robinson for obviously the Falcons divisional matchup against the Panthers, and then James Cook in that Bills-Bucks game. Bijan Robinson's had a weird season.
Yeah.
You'd argue
that's why we put him in there.
Yeah, you'd argue the most talented of these three. James Cook probably has the most explosive games, and then Josh Jacobs is probably the most consistent, or at least this year the most consistent. But the Giants' defense is good. You can see on the app, if you go on it, you can see the opponent's rank against that position, and the Giants are 29th against giving points to the running back. So that is a slight concern for me there. And the Panthers' running defense has been so volatile. 1 week excellent, the next week non-existent. So is this the week for Bijan? Is this again? I think I would just go with the talent here and go with Bijan Robinson.
You took the words out of my mouth. I think there's going to be two ways that our users face Triple Crown, and that would be: do I go with name value and follow the talent, or do I analyze what's been happening, opposition rank, form? Tyler Algier is taking touchdowns away from Bijan. I mean, when I look at those three on face value, Bijan, right? Like but it's never going to be that simple. But it takes a brave person to go against Bijan Robinson. I would go with him because I think also after last week, them taking the touchdowns away from him, maybe they give him goal line this week. Who knows?
And it's the one game that Bryce Young always turns up for is the Panthers against the Falcons. So if the Falcons are going to want to be in this game, they are going to have to score points. And if they're going to want to score points, who better to give the ball to than Bijan? Although, as you say, Tyler Algier has been vulturing fantasy points away from Bijan owners. Yeah. The trio of wide receivers I love because I've got one fantasy league where this is my trio of wide receivers. I'm starting all three of these in one of my leagues. Justin Jefferson was my first round pick. Nico Collins was my second round pick. And then Emeka Egbuka later on. This is tough. I think this is actually the hardest of the lot for me to decide between. Because again, if you're going on talent, you're probably saying JJ, but Egbuka is a real wild card as a rookie. He's looked phenomenal. I'm interested in that you've got that Bucks-Bills game in every single row of the Triple Crown. So I think is there one mind frame maybe to pick all three players from that game and hope it's an absolute barn burner? There's loads of points, and that's just, you're not even looking at the names. You're just going that matchup.
The over-under sort of philosophy. So interestingly, those three wide receivers are the exact same three that we had last week for our soft launch, and Egbuka was the highest scorer. What's been interesting with Nico is he's actually playing his best football with Davis Mills under center. So actually, when we saw that Stroud was out, it makes Nico quite an intriguing selection there because he's been doing great. last couple of weeks without Stroud. So that's another dynamic that's thrown into it.
I love it already. 15 entries is a concern because I feel like I'm going to be entering this many, many times. I think if I had to be on the spot right now, and I'll look a fool for it, I think I'd be going Baker Mayfield at quarterback, Bijan Robinson at running back, and I think I would go with the stack and hope for the high over game and go with Egbuka to double up on that wide receiver win. But picking Egbuka over Jefferson and Nico Collins is that feels very risky. I have to admit that feels risky. But hey, that would be my three. Give me your three.
And just before I do, and this isn't me delaying tactics.
You're copping out. You're copping out. Yeah.
No, I'm not. Once the games start on Sunday, you will see the percentage ownerships of these players. So you'll see how many percent of people have selected that particular player. And then you'll also see the percentage of how many have your combo of three. So you will get an insight into how other people have chosen their selections. For me, I agree with your first two, Baker and Bijan, or Nico Collins. I'm going Nico Collins. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Jefferson's been tough going this season. I don't blame him. With wide receivers in fantasy, we are always at the mercy of the quarterback, and it's been volatile for him. On the basis that I don't think Egbuka will produce the same level 2 weeks in a row, I'm going Nico.
My only concern with Nico is that they play the Titans, and that there's the one argument, of course, that the Titans aren't very good. So that's good news. But they're not going to need to, for me, they're not going to need to keep running at points. So
True.
they could take a very early lead in this game and then just run the ball with Woody Marks for the rest of the game. So that's my concern with Nico, but there's no doubt in the talent in that game. I just quite like the matchup of the Bucks Bills. I think that could be a real, although the Bills last week, which we'll get onto in a minute, not quite sure what happened there. I think probably the shock of the season so far, losing to the Dolphins in that game. Before I let you go, actually, just before we end up on the chat on the app, obviously it's for over 18s if you're in the UK. This is a gambling app, so please gamble responsibly. And if you are a first-time user on the app, please use the code HuddleUK. That's our partnership code with the app. That's HUDUK. Get a free £7.50. Does that count towards your first entry on Triple Crown, or is that just with the DFS?
You can use it on any contest you like. So £7.50 will be credited to the account. It was designed for entry to our £7.50 Sunday Stars contest. Things have evolved. We've got many more contests now. So you can enter Triple Crown 3 times and have £150 left over to put towards another one, however you want to spend it.
There we go. So yeah, £7.50 free into your account if you use the code HUDUK. That's the end of the app chat, but you're a Jets fan, I know. And it is Friday when we're recording this. This podcast comes out on Saturday, but I was watching Thursday Night Football last night. The Patriots are up to 9-2. Who saw that coming? The Jets at 2-8. I think a lot of people might have seen that come in. But I just wanted to ask you as a fan, because we didn't touch on it much last week after the trade deadline, but the Jets, as was well documented, traded away both Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, their two best players, arguably, on the defensive side of the ball. And they've got, I think, 3 first-round picks for that and maybe a second-round pick. This is very much a burn-it-down philosophy that the Jets have adopted here. As a fan, I said it last week, I kind of respect it in a way because they've gone, the season's done. Let's just scrap everything. But as a fan, are you pleased? Is it like, I'll just watch the rest of the season as a neutral? Or are you a bit annoyed about the decisions?
I've got quite a lot to say on this. I don't know how long you've got. So, I don't know where to start. I have no problem. We all know how the NFL works. We all know how the system is designed. Draft picks are a great thing if you know how to spend them. And we have a history of making poor selections. So, will these first round picks go towards our next franchise quarterback? He might turn up like Sam Darnold to be a franchise quarterback on another team. So this is the problem I have with selling players, trading away players for first round picks, is you hit the jackpot with Sauce Gardner with that first round pick, but then you get rid of him. And to get a player like Sauce Gardner, these guys don't come around very often. These are elite talent, and you can maybe draft 8 more corners and not get a Sauce Gardner. However, there's one thing I will say is that I don't think that his heart was there. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in every sport, not just the NFL, where us as fans don't know what's going on, the meetings in the locker room, the meetings between players. And if there's a guy who doesn't want to be there, I don't think he wanted to be there personally. Why would he? Then they got to go. It happens in every sport. I'm a Man United fan in the Premier League, and historically, Alex Ferguson would get rid of a player no matter how well they were playing, because he was like, they got to go. And there was one play this season which sticks out to me, which was Sauce Gardner against the Dolphins. You talk about the Dolphins and the Bills. He just let Achan run through for the touchdown, and who can blame him? He's been there for a few years. He's a fantastic footballer, and it's we're not a good team. And now he's gone to the Colts, and they're having a fantastic season. So I think it works for all parties involved. The Colts get their superstar to shore up what is already a great defense. The Jets get their draft picks to hopefully try and build something more, and he gets a move away from a team that is no good. It seems like a good situation for everyone, right?
Yeah, my surprise in it was that when I say they burnt it all to the ground, they kind of half did, didn't they, in a way? Because Breece Hall was another player who many expected to go. The reports came out that the Chiefs were interested. And then you've got Garrett Wilson, who's now on IR. He's the player I feel the most sorry for, because he's still there. And with the greatest respect to Justin Fields, he's not known for his arm. He's not the future of the Jets, is he, Justin Fields?
No, he's not. I was optimistic before the season. I thought that, he showed things at the Steelers last year. But look, that's not working out. And I think this trade shows that the franchise don't believe it's working out. They want first round picks, maybe to put together for a package to get a franchise quarterback. I do feel sorry for Garrett Wilson. I love Garrett Wilson, by the way. I actually felt that I was happy that we got him instead of Drake London in that draft a few years ago. But Breece Hall, I think the thing with Breece Hall is that it was talks of a 3rd or 4th round draft pick. So it's not franchise altering, that sort of level of pick. But I think he'll go, and I think he'll get paid well. I think there's actually in the NFL the last few years, we've seen it, right? We've seen quality running backs get paid big contracts and move on to a good situation and be fantastic. Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, it keeps on happening. I think Breece Hall will be the next one. I think he could get paid handsomely by another team and be fantastic next year, because he's really talented.
Yeah, I love Breece Hall. He's one of my favourite players in the NFL. He has been for a while. The remaining games for the Jets: Ravens, Falcons, Dolphins, Jags, Saints, Patriots, Bills. Do you think you win any of them?
Well, I mean, they beat the Browns last week. I think they could. I think it's been a crazy season, right? We're seeing some unbelievable results, and teams that you think are tanking are then beating the Buffalo Bills or whatever. So I could see the Jets falling to a 4 win record, and harming their chances of an even better draft pick. So yeah, there could be a couple of wins coming between now and the rest of the season.
Yeah, there's some winnable games in there, aren't there? I mean, I said that as sort of a bit tongue-in-cheek, but the Dolphins are beatable, the Saints are beatable, the Jags are beatable, and as I say every single week, I still don't know what the Falcons are. I don't know what they are. For one point last week in Germany, I thought they were going to beat the Colts, and then, Jonathan Taylor turned into the MVP candidate that he's been this year. Gurmeet, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. Remember to go download Fantasy Gameday. It's a brilliant app. As I say, I've had some hard luck on it the last few weeks, but I see loads of people over on social media talking about it, and rightly so. It's a great app for UK fans, and this new Triple Crowns game is going to be my obsession for the rest of the weekend. So go enjoy that. Go download it. Use the code HuddleUK. Good luck to the Jets as well, Gurmeet, moving forward. Hopefully they can use those draft picks to good use. Well, it's time to get into all of the Week 11 action. Thank you to Gurmeet for joining the podcast this week. Remember to go sign up to fantasygameday.app using the code HuddleUK for the new Triple Crowns game this weekend. As I've just mentioned, going to be entering that far too many times myself and probably getting it all wrong, as I tend to do on any predictions I make on this podcast. Let's move on. This week, some really good games. Really, really excited. And I usually have someone join me to run through it. Joining me, it was our first ever podcast guest actually here at HuddleUK, and that's Mark, who's been part of HuddleUK for a while, founder of Broncos Europe. Mark, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, always good to be on the HuddleUK pod. Like you said, first guest on, so I'll always have that crown to wear firmly on my head. But yeah, always great to join you and talk some ball.
Yeah, the very first, the debutant on the podcast. So, nice full circle moment here. And I think what's episode 32. We've had quite a few this year, trying to do it weekly during the season. And we've managed to do that so far. We're going to save the games in our division. Obviously, the reason we've got you on is that the Broncos Chiefs game, one of the most pivotal games of this week. We'll save those ones until at the end, because obviously, as AFC West fans, those are the ones that we have a certain caring for. But plenty of games this week. As I said, some really exciting ones. The first game of the week, not first game of the week technically. Obviously, we had the Jets losing to the Patriots on Thursday night. The first game of Sunday is in Madrid, a first ever game in Spain, and it's the Dolphins Commanders. I thought this was going to be the most entertaining game when they announced all the European games this year. I was like, oh, Dolphins Commanders, that could be really, really tasty. And now it really has a sense of not quite tank bowl, but Chris Peck, the Commanders writer for the website, is going out there to see his first ever game as a Washington fan in 40 years, and he wants them to lose. It's really got this air of disappointed. Daniels is out, Tyreek Hill's out, half the Washington defense is out. So it's a bit of a shame, really, isn't it, that it's culminated in this.
Yeah, I mean the game is going to at the Bernabeu. What a stadium for it to be in as well. It's got all that history for football, and now hosting NFL games, and they get the Commanders without Jaden Daniels. So you've got a Marcus Mariota led team in there. Not exactly thrilling for anyone watching, but hey, it can't be any worse than the game in London with the Broncos and Jets. So hopefully it's better than that. The Dolphins coming off the back of a fantastic win over the Bills. So they've shown a bit of a sign of life there. The heartbeat's going again. So you never know, do you, whether it's going to be an exciting game. It would be better if all the players were playing, if they weren't injured. But that's the NFL. It's next man up mentality, isn't it? And I'm sure they will be playing for their paychecks and their place on the roster next season or for next week. So you never know. And I'd never root against my team and want them to lose. But I understand, you get a better draft pick, and you never know. It's future-proofing your own franchise, isn't it?
It's tough for the Commanders as well, because they've traded away their second-round pick next year to the Texans when they went to get Laramie Tunsil. So even if they do get a really early pick, they only have one of them, because they don't have the second-round pick. So, Commanders fans in a bit of a pickle this season. It hasn't really followed up last year's success. Obviously, injuries have been horrific. So, and to your point, it is next man up. It doesn't always mean it's going to be a bad game. I remember staying up for Thursday Night Football a few weeks ago with the Joe Flacco Cincinnati Bengals against Aaron Rodgers Steelers, and it was one of the best games of the season. So, don't judge a book by its cover. And actually, Bengals Steelers is one we'll get onto in a moment. But let's finish off the 6:00 games to start. I think this game, the next one up, could be one of my favourite games on paper of the week, because I think there's a real chance of an upset here, and that's the Giants-Packers. I can't believe I'm saying that this could be an upset when you don't have Malik Nabers, you don't have Cam Scatterby, you don't have Jackson Dart. But anytime Jameis Winston's in a game, it can be fun. And we're going to have our first Jameis Winston game of 2025 on Sunday. And the Green Bay Packers, as good as they've looked at times this season, other times have not. And again, Nathan, who's our Packers writer, has been not hammering Matt LaFleur, but has been increasingly frustrated in the play calling that is going on in Green Bay, because the game against the Eagles the other night was a real slog to watch. I would say that Bengals Steelers game was one I was pleased to stay up and watch on prime time, not so much with the Eagles game the other day. So are you in the same boat as me? Is that you think the Giants could potentially upset the Packers here, or maybe am I just dreaming and being a bit hopeful and this should be an easy Green Bay run out?
What I really love about this game, and as a Broncos fan here, I really love the fact Russell Wilson is not getting the start. and Jameis Winston is going in ahead of him. Jameis Winston, famous for the 30-30 season, the 30 touchdowns, the 30 interceptions on the same season. He's an exciting quarterback when he wants to be. You know, you never know what you're going to get with him. The Giants are decimated by injuries, though. You know, they've got no running, but they've got running backs, but they, you know, their number one running back's out. Their number one receiver in Neighbors is he's out of the game, and he's an exciting player. You know, I do like the Giants roster, though. I like Wan'Dale Robinson. I think he's a sneakily good receiver, and he's stepped up in the absence of Neighbors. And the defense is good. They gave the Broncos a great game until Bo decided to play his most amazing fourth quarter comeback. But we had no right in winning that game, and the Giants should have took the win. And unfortunately for them, they have, you know, they fired Dayball after, I think in 4 games this year they've had over 98% chance of winning a game, haven't they? And have lost all 4. Somewhere that stat has been out there.
True?
Yeah.
Oh my days, that's
And
a
then-
remarkable statistic.
It's incredible how they've lost all 4 of those games, but you know, that's the Giants, and they have. But the Packers, moving on to Packers, they're a bit of Marmite, aren't they? They're either really good or they're really bad, and they've got some amazing players on there. You know, they've got one of the better quarterbacks in the league in Jordan Love. They've got an okay running back in Josh Jacobs. I think he's all right. I don't think he's top tier, but you know, he does a job. He's a bit of a bowling ball down the field and runs between the tackles. It just depends which Packer team is going to turn up. I can see an upset with the Giants, but then I can also see the Packers just turning up and absolutely, you know, bulldozing through and having a multi-score victory. So I'd probably lean towards the Packers doing that. I have more faith in them than I do in Jameis Winston, but you know, it is one, like you mentioned, that could go as an upset.
Yeah, maybe it's just blind faith and excitement in Jameis Winston, who was singing Hamilton in his first press conference this week, which, you know, I'm not singing because nobody wants to hear that. But there's the song where in Hamilton they describe New York as the greatest city in the world, and he was singing that clip from the musical, which was rather entertaining. Just sort of describes his personality. First divisional matchup, obviously ignoring Thursday night football, on the slate this week is the Titans against the Texans in the AFC South, and this. It just gets harder and harder for Cam Ward this season. Every time you think, okay, maybe he could turn a page. They got rid of Brian Callahan. Okay, good. And now he has to go to a divisional rival who, you know, I said it pre-season, I think, when we were talking, that for me, the best defense in the NFL is between the Broncos and the Texans. And that has proven to be pretty accurate this year. Both of them have been elite. The Texans defense single-handedly carried them to victory. Actually, that's a bit harsh on Davis Mills, who did get his first rushing touchdown in about 4 years on Sunday. But the Texans defense is just so good. So this could be another really long afternoon for the number 1 overall pick this year, Cam Ward.
You don't have much harder opening season, you know, rookie season as Cam Ward has had. He has had it tough every week. You know, the situation around it not great anyway. They're building long haul for the future, aren't they? He's going to be one hell of a quarterback, in my opinion. He's got all the traits. He just needs weapons around him, which unfortunately he doesn't have at the moment. And coming up against the Texans defense, which is fierce, they gave Broncos a really good game the other day. If it wasn't for CJ Stroud going out of the game, I think they win that game. Their defense is so good. I can't see them giving Cam Ward much joy there. I expect a sort of a one-sided result in this one.
You know, you mentioned the weapons. I've been quite impressed by DK and Ayamanor. I think they're both 4th round picks, and they've both stepped up at times and have shown flashes. But you need that consistent, bona fide guy, don't you? And the Titans don't have that. Calvin Ridley, that was the hope, but it's not proven that way. Tony Pollard, I kind of see him in a bit similar way that you described Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs, you were slightly harsh on him. I think he's slightly better than how you described him. Whereas I think Tony Pollard is just your, you know, late 20s, serviceable running back and not much more. I'm a big Tajay Spears fan. I think he's, you know, exciting, but he's not, going to ever be your workhorse back. So, yeah, the Titans have a lot of building to do still. I'm in the camp of you that I quite like what I've seen from Cam Ward, but he's just in a horrible, horrible situation. And you fear for quarterbacks in the NFL because the career span for most NFL players is about 3 years, because most players just don't ever hold down a starting job. And when it's that bad, there are going to be fans who are blaming Cam Ward, and I think that would be very harsh and very premature to do at this stage. But fickle fans in sport across the board, not just the NFL. We all are. Another divisional game. This is I've got on my notes here what I'm going to call the inconsistent derby, which is the Carolina Panthers against the Atlanta Falcons. Two teams who I put in that boat of what the hell are those teams? There's a few of them. I still just don't know. The Chicago Bears are in this group for me. I don't know if they're a good team. I don't know if they're a bad team. Because some weeks I watch them, I go, what a great football team. And then the next week, is that the same? Is that the same team? The Falcons looked awful a couple of weeks ago. Then they beat the Bills the week before that. And then they almost beat the Colts in Germany last weekend. And then you look at the Panthers, they go and beat Green Bay at Lambeau Field and then lose to the Saints. This game, we're trying to predict who's going to win these games. I'm not even going to try and predict this one because this could be anything from a blowout win for either side to a tie at 0-0. I'm not even going to try because this is an insane game with two teams. The only thing I will say is it's the one game that Bryce Young always turns up for. His record in this game is ridiculously good. I think he's only lost one. So maybe he could do it again. But yeah, I saw you giggling. Are you sort of in the same boat as me of what the hell's going to happen here?
To be a fan of these teams this year must be like riding a roller coaster. You have insane highs, but then just like the next week they just drop. And it's like, oh, okay, we were building something, but okay, we're now back to square one, and they just look awful. I like the Falcons. They've got some players on that offense. If they start using Kyle Pitts to what he can do, every week he lets my one of my prop bets down because he either drops the ball or he's not targeted enough or he doesn't get enough yards. But every week I have blind faith in him that he will be, the early draft pick he is meant to be and he'll show up. But I like the Falcons. I think Bijan Robinson is one of the most exciting running backs in the league. They were so close to beating the Colts in Germany in a game I was massively rooting for them in for AFC permutations there. But like you said, they're both very similar. They could have a whole division of these teams. Like you said, the Bears, Panthers, Falcons, Cardinals, you throw in there, I guess. They can show up every now and then.
The Jags fall in this as one for me as well.
You could have your own sort of division and you wouldn't be able to call it, would you? It would be the closest division in the league. So,
it's the NFC mediocrity.
Yeah, I mean, we could start that up and start branding it. We could sell quite a few bits of merch there. But I'm probably going to lean towards the Atlanta Falcons in this one. I think Bijan's is a standout player and he can win any game for him.
Yeah, I would agree with you, actually. And Bijan Robinson, as I mentioned to Gurmeet a moment ago, is my pick in the Triple Crown this week to have the highest scoring fantasy points of the three running backs on option. But honestly, if the Panthers win this game, I'm not going to be surprised. It genuinely could go either way, and I think it's a fool's game trying to predict that one. The divisional games continue. This time from south to north, NFC North. Two teams in this same NFC mediocrity division, and that's the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. I still don't know what to make of JJ McCarthy. Obviously a serial winner in college and has had his moments. He seems to be building a bit of a connection with Justin Jefferson, which is obviously good. Although last Sunday, Jalen Naylor was his guy. And then for the Bears, Caleb Williams has got, we were talking about the lack of weapons that Cam Ward has got for the Titans. It's the complete opposite when it comes to the Bears. You've got two good tight ends in Loveland and Komet. You've got so many wide receivers, you can't even get them all on the field at the moment. Roma Dunze's really impressed this season. And then Monongai has been kind of the running back that everyone was looking for in fantasy dynasty leagues. Everyone was going Bashal Tutin, but Carl Monongai has turned into that guy. I think the Bears win this one and quite comfortably. But again, the Vikings and JJ McCarthy beat the Lions the other week. So these again are teams where on their day you wouldn't bet against them, but their days don't come around every week.
Yeah, I was a massive JJ McCarthy fan going into the draft when he was drafted. I was urging the Broncos to go and pick him. But obviously I'm delighted we stuck with Bo and took him. The Vikings feel like a team that don't know their identity. I don't know what they're about. They're sort of just middle of the pack. I don't know if they're any good. I don't know if they're really bad. They're just going to be in that sort of mediocrity pick in the draft. They're going to win games and they're going to lose games. And it's not really helping them either way. But someone's got to pick in the middle of the draft. You know, you can't just all be at the bottom or be at the top. The Bears, on the other hand, for me, are a really promising team, and they're probably a bit too early for them. But Caleb Williams is a player I'm a huge fan of. He's got it on the ground. He's got it in the air. His weapons are insane. That Colson Loveland, we were battling out for him, weren't we, in the draft this year? We both wanted Loveland at our respective teams. Neither of us got him, but he's really started to show that he's going to be one hell of a player in the league. He's improving on his blocking, and he's dangerous. You know, after the catch, he scored that late touchdown last week to win the game, and at Dundee, he's just going to be a number one wide receiver for years to come. He's another one of my fantasy letdowns, though. He lets me down on my parlays, so my betting parlays, and week in, week out, doesn't quite get to the amount that he needs, but he's a viable weapon, and I see the Bears running away with this one, to be honest.
I'm in the same camp as you, and as I mentioned at the top of the show, I had Roma Dunze in my captain in both DFS leagues in week 9 when he had a goose egg and got 0 points. When you're watching Caleb Williams catch passes from DJ Moore and different things, and, you know, I'm just cursing at the TV. But that's the joy. That's the joy of the sport. Yeah, I think the Bears win that quite comfortably. I'm going to leave, as I said at the top of this chat, the AFC West games for the end. Potentially the game of the week. There's a few actually that could fall into this category. But the first one of them that we'll talk about is the Bills against the Bucks. Now, this on paper could be really exciting. There are injuries. I have to just mention them. Obviously, no Bucky Irving for the Buccaneers. Dalton Kincaid's out for the Bills now. There's been the long-term injuries as well for the Bucks receivers that we know. Baker and Egbuka should be fine to go. The Bills do get Josh Palmer back, but these are two teams coming off a loss. In that last week, the Bills had that massively shock defeat to the Miami Dolphins. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers were beaten by what is very evidently a very good New England Patriots team in a very entertaining game. They had a really entertaining one a couple of months ago against the Seahawks, and they came out on the right side of that one, not against the Patriots last time out. I'm finding this one really hard to call because I think history or recent history in regular season tells us that the Bills should win this game. And given all the injuries that the Bucks have, you would kind of follow that. But the way that they played against the Dolphins last time out is real cause for concern. And I understand why, if Bills fans would be going into this game with significantly less optimism than they would have if it was 7 days previous. That being said, I find it very hard to bet against Josh Allen. So I lean marginally the direction of the Buffalo Bills here because I haven't seen enough of them being bad. Everyone has a bad week from time to time, and I think I'm just going to put last week's defeat against the Dolphins as a blotch, as where did that come from? Let's move on. And I think they just got enough about them with Josh Allen to win this game, but it's also going to be snowy, probably, which is a big thing in this game. I love Emeka Egbuka, and I think Baker Mayfield's really good, but I think the run game with Rachaad White is not going to be as good as James Cook and Josh Allen with 55% chance of snow and high winds in Buffalo, and that's why I lean Buffalo.
Yeah, the weather definitely favours the Buffalo win for me. I'm with you. I think Buffalo wins this one, just purely because the weather, the injuries to the Buccaneers offensive side. You know, Bucky Irving is one hell of a player, and is a massive miss for that for what they want to do, especially in the snow. James Cook has been a revelation for the Bills this year. He's looked dangerous in every game they played. I mean, it was a bit of a down week last week, which no one really saw coming. But apparently, you know, that is a big rivalry, the Dolphins and the Bills. You know, the Dolphins raised their game, and fair play to them. They came out with a huge win, and that could, you know, kickstart their season. A bit late into the season, but it could kickstart it. But the Bills, you never count Josh Allen out ever. He's if not second best, if he's not the best quarterback in the league, he's definitely top 3, top 2. It's a shame Kincaid's out. I think he's a really good tight end, and he's the backup option sort of to when something's not right. First look for Josh Allen, he goes to Kincaid, and he's sort of like his safety blanket there. I like Baker. I like Egbuka, and I still say this: Egbuka was the Broncos' plan in the first round of the draft this year. He just went the pick before we were picking. He was what we were going to pick. He was going to be a Bronco until Tampa Bay decided to come and take him. and we pivoted to the other side of the ball. But I'm not bitter about it at all. A little bit maybe. But yeah, he can change any game. The defensive side, both really good, solid defenses. But yeah, Bills to me win this one. Bad weather, Josh Allen comeback game after last week. They're not going to want to lose 2 in a row. They need to get their playoff campaign back on the road. So yeah, Bills win this one.
Yeah, I still haven't forgiven the Seahawks for taking JSN, the pick before the Chargers a few years back. It still haunts me. Quentin Johnson this year has made me feel slightly better about how that panned out because he's looked quite good this year. So yeah, well done, QJ. Back to the rematch of the Unk Bowl, the Aaron Rodgers against the Joe Flacco AFC North derby. Obviously, the Bengals came out on top of this one on that Thursday night thriller. Sean, our Bengals writer, was out there for the game, had an absolute blast by all accounts. Also on that note, my favourite story, I think, maybe of the year over at HuddleUK.com is Sean's 7-part Shakespearean play about Joe Flacco, which went up this week. It's so, I don't know how much time Sean spent writing this. It's an absolute masterpiece, and it all rhymes in all 7 acts, and there's settings and characters and all the rest of it. So please go and have a read.
Are the rumours true that this is going to go on a Broadway tour in the near future?
Huddle UK's Joe Flacco Shakespearean play, yeah. Maybe that one for the future. I'm sure I can get AI to animate that. That might be something to investigate in the future. But I don't want to say this is going to be a bad game because I thought it was going to be last time and it turned into that thriller, as I mentioned. So what I do think is I think the Steelers get revenge. All of their tight ends scored in the last game, and although the Steelers didn't look good on offense against the Chargers on Sunday Night Football, I'm just going to put that down to the fact that I think the Chargers have a good defense, and we know, sorry to Cincinnati fans, but their defense is horrific, historically bad. I mean, it was historically bad a couple of years ago, and they've made that defense look okay. It's that bad. I think, unfortunately, as much as I hope it's another, like, whatever it was, 42-38, I don't see it going that way.
No, it's very rare to have 2 matchups, go really big shootout games, a big high scoring. That being said, the Bengals offense is clicking now, isn't it? It's finding a bit of form. Jamar Chase is an elite wide receiver. Flacco is doing what Flacco does best and just comes into a team, rescues them a little bit, puts them back to mediocrity, and that's about it. He'll move on to another team. The only team he hasn't done it, sorry to bring up Broncos every time, the only team he hasn't done it at is the Broncos. But he'll always be dead to us in Denver. But the Steelers' defense is very, very good. I see them winning this game against the Bengals. The Bengals' defense is horrendously bad. It's probably the worst defense the franchise have actually had in its history. But the Steelers, they've been up and down, haven't they, on offense? Is Aaron Rodgers the one you want leading your offense at the grand old age of however old he is, 40 plus, is he now? He's old.
I think it's 42. I think Joe Flacco might be 40 because they showed when they played the first game that was the 3rd oldest combination of quarterbacks in NFL history, with Brady, Breeze being the top ones. So Joe Flacco's 40 years old and Aaron Rodgers is 41.
Did they sign him because he's still a top quarterback? I don't see it. I don't think he's that level anymore. But it is what it is. He'll do a job. Like I say, it's a serviceable game for both quarterbacks, and they get the job done a lot of the time. But I see the Steelers' defense outplaying the Bengals' defense. So Steelers for me on this one. We'll get a win in a lower scoring game than last time.
Not, you mentioned the Broncos, and not to mention the Chargers before we get into the AFC West, but my concern if I'm Steelers fan is that the Chargers, Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator, basically paved a roadmap for every other team that plays the Steelers this year to show them how to beat them, because until Roman Wilson scored right at the death, they didn't have a touchdown in that game. And the Chargers took away everything good about the about the Steelers offense, minus one ridiculous play from Jaylen Warren when he went flying over the cornerback, which was really, really entertaining to watch. But they had nothing all day. Every look that Rodgers had, he was looking for DK, and it just wasn't happening. So that would be my concern if I'm Pittsburgh, is that, they're on prime time. The Chargers went, this is how you beat them. Do this to them and you take away all of their threats. So, I think the Bengals, with their patchwork sieve of a defense, will be attempting to do similar.
There's a good word.
I don't think they're going to be able to.
It is a sieve. Yes, that's a very good word to describe it.
Yeah, Jake described the game the other day as like a hot knife through butter, which is very much what most offensives have been against the Bengals. So, yes, as I said, sorry, Cincy. Moving on. The late window games then starts with the teams in third and fourth in the NFC West. That's the Cardinals and the 49ers, or what's left of the 49ers. That being said, the Cardinals are the one with the big sort of injury news this week, with Marvin Harrison Jr. being ruled out, and you really then see the lack of depth at wide receiver this franchise has. And that's no disrespect to Michael Wilson, who's been all right in the NFL, but this is a team that when they lose that main guy, the threats outside of Trey McBride, who we all know how good he is, I think he's the best tight end in the league. I've been on record saying that multiple times. Yeah. But after Marvin Harrison at wide receiver, it's pretty bleak. Greg Dortch, when Semi Fehoko is going to be starting, who could hardly get to the Chargers active roster, you're in trouble, really. So, on the other side, the 49ers, as I mentioned, so many injuries, except to Christian McCaffrey, who, whatever those German doctors did, I mean, you need to get yourself one of those, because if you're injured, go to Germany. Apparently, that's the way to sort yourself out. And Brock Purdy's back this week, and Ricky Pearsall's back this week. So even if the defense is banged up, I think this is quite a comfortable win for the 49ers.
Yeah, I do too. Outside of the tight end room in Arizona, there's nothing. It's like Arizona itself. It's a desert. There is absolutely nothing there. That's how I would describe him. Trey McBride is in my fantasy team this year, and he is carrying me to a lot of victories week in, week out. This plays well for me with Marvin Harrison being out. But on the other side, they're a very good team. I see this being a very one-sided game, even with the injuries in San Fran. Christian McCaffrey is an elite running back / wide receiver / tight end / just offensive weapon. He's going to be good. Brock Purdy, they've been waiting for him to come back all year. Is it a game too soon? Maybe. You never know. You want to protect him, because he is their quarterback of the future. He's led them to a Super Bowl already. But he's going to be back, and he just needs people to come back around him, doesn't he? And so he has. Although Ricky Pearsall's a good wide receiver as well. He's been injured quite a few times. I mean, one definitely wasn't his fault, but he's back, and again he provides that deep threat for Brock to hit. That's quite a nice connection they have there. But I see McCaffrey getting a couple of touchdowns in this, and the 49ers easing to a nice easy victory.
The 49ers are on that bubble, sort of in the playoff race. They win this game, and the NFL's website, the playoff picture, if they beat the Cardinals, which we think they will, it would project them to have an 85% chance of making the playoffs, which, if they do make the playoffs with all the injuries they have, Kyle Shanahan should really be in the discussion for Coach of the Year. He won't get it. It will probably go to Mike Vrabel, which is understandable. But for me right now, the fact that they're still in the competition when they've lost pretty much their entire team at some point of the season is a real credit to what Shanahan's done there. Staying in the division, this is number 2 on the Game of the Week contenders, and I think it's probably the game outside of the AFC West I'm most excited for, which I'm just calling JSNV Puka. And I know that's a disrespect to the large swathes of both of these rosters, but the Rams against the Seahawks, both teams absolutely flying, 7-2 against 7-2, the top 2 teams in the NFC West. If the Rams win, they'd be the first team to have an over 99% chance of playoff qualification according to the NFL. So if they win this game, they're in, basically. You'd have to have a miracle. And if the Seahawks win, they're 98%. This game I think I've said this on the podcast a few times. I just, again, like I was saying, I can't remember who the team I was talking about earlier was. Oh, I think it was the Bills. I'm just so used to seeing the Rams winning regular season games, and less so when it comes to Seattle. I still, going back 10 years when it was Russell Wilson and Marshawn Lynch and Super Bowl Seattle, that was the difference. But since then, in the last few years, you hear Seattle and you think, okay, decent team, 9-win, 10-win season, Geno Smith, okay. You think LA Rams, you think, oh, this is a team going far in the postseason. So just looking at the two names, I want to just immediately say Rams. But it's really hard to rule out what Sam Darnold and JSN and co, the defense looks really good, are doing there. McDonald is one of those Coach of the Year contenders as well. So I've highlighted the Rams as the team that I think will win, but this could be an absolute thriller of a game.
Yeah, it's probably the game of the week. Yeah, outside, like you said, that I'm looking forward to the most outside the AFC West. Very similar there. The Seahawks, for me, are very under the radar. They've just been going about their business. They've just winning games. That no one's talking about them, to go and win the Super Bowl, but they could. They are very, very sneakily good. Darnold, who saw this coming from Sam Darnold? He is incredible this year. He's just playing lights out football, and he's being accurate. He's hitting the long shot. He's got a good run game there, but I still would lean towards the Rams in this matchup. Nakua, oh my God, what an outstanding wide receiver he is. He can win you a game in a flash. He could be quiet all game and then have one target in the last game. I mean, he's not going to win the game with one target, but because he's that good. But he could. And then he comes up in the last second and just comes down with a monster catch, and that's it, game one. Stafford is Stafford. He's serviceable. He's not my favourite quarterback in the league. He's just sort of Mr. He's just smooth and elegant. He gets the job done. He's like a little machine himself. He goes through the motions. He hits his receivers, hits his tight ends. Not a great mover, but yeah, he's very accurate, and I like him. I think he's got enough in him to win this game. Like you said, it's going to be a shootout to go 8-2. Both are going to get to the playoffs. So it just depends which route they're going to take. This is probably for the number one seed, isn't it? Let's be honest. One of these teams is going to get that, I think, in the NFC, and it's going to be a good game. I'm excited to see it. I don't know much about the defensive sides on both of these teams, but I know offensively it's going to be a showdown.
Yeah, I think both defenses are very good. I just think both offenses are better. So it'll be really interesting. The other storyline here, of course, in this game is Cooper Kupp playing the Rams, his old team, for the first time as a Seahawk. So that'll be an interesting one to watch, because we all want to talk about JSN, but Cooper Kupp, I'm sure, will... he's been saying that he's got no bad feelings. It's not a revenge game, but I know deep down, if you're him, you want to go and prove a point in this game. We'll brush over the other AFC West game in the late window to quickly round off the other two. There's not much to say really about the Browns-Ravens AFC North game. It's a rematch of week 2. Adam Barton, our Ravens writers, put up a really good piece about this. It's 3 wins in a row now for the Ravens, and as much as the Browns are fun and frisky on defense, there's nothing doing on offense. Kevin Stefanski is still riding with Dylan Gabriel. I don't really know why at this point. You've got nothing to lose by throwing Shedeur Sanders in at this stage.
Throw him into the gauntlet. Get him. Just see what he's got. He had all this hype coming out of college, rightly so. Probably should have been picked higher than he was picked, but just he's better than Dylan Gabriel, isn't he? He's got to be.
Well, it can't be much worse. I said last week on the podcast, if the Browns don't beat the Jets, then Dylan Gabriel's not a serviceable NFL quarterback, and then they didn't. So I'm going to stand by that, and I'm surprised that Stefanski stuck with him, and I think if they lose this game, well, they will lose this game. I say that now, they'll win it, but they will lose this game. But if they lose this game by an embarrassing margin, deciding to stick with Dylan Gabriel could be the final straw for Stefanski. So I think it's a really risky decision.
And you say the Ravens will win this. If Myles Garrett has another game like he did the other week, I know he lost after that 5-sack game, but he can disrupt any quarterback and make them feel a bit shaky. So if he decides he wants to play like he can play, you never know. I mean, the Browns are the Browns, aren't they? So.
The issue with that, though, is exactly what you just said. Myles Garrett can have 5 sacks in a game, and they still got battered. So And, that was against us, what we've said a few times, a very good Patriots team. But he is just a one-man defense. And as good as he is, and he is a generational talent and probably the best defensive player in the league, but you can't win a game with one good player on defense. Actually, two. I love Carson Schwarzenegger, as I say every week. But you can't win a game with two players on defense. So, yeah, this is an easy Ravens game, and I don't have much more to say about it. Sunday night football is the Rams and the Seahawks are currently the 2nd and 5th seeds in the NFC. Then the Sunday night football game is 1st v 3rd in the Eagles against the Lions. Now, the Eagles are 7-2, the Lions are 6-3. Despite that, I think the Lions win this, and I've got quite strong confidence in them. Dan Campbell took over play calling recently, and they've looked excellent. And I would go as far as to say the Lions probably have the best offense in football, and it's close. That's not taken away from the Seahawks or the Rams or some of the other elite offenses in football, but the Lions could score. Well, they look like they could score 50 points on anyone any given week, and I can't say the same for most other teams. So, having watched the Eagles really struggle against the Packers on, I think it was Monday Night Football, it's just given me more belief that the Detroit Lions win this game. But I think it comes down to which team gets the run game going early, because if Saquon gets going, we all know what he can do. But I lean that Jahmyr Gibbs and that complement of Sonic and Knuckles with David Montgomery get the Lions rolling early. And the last thing the Eagles want to be doing is playing from behind. They're good when they're playing ahead. So that's my concern for them. And yeah, as I said, I've got quite strong confidence in Detroit in this one.
Yeah, I'm the same. I like Detroit. It's probably my NFC team that I would follow the most. They're just exciting to watch. Jahmyr Gibbs is one of the most exciting sort of offensive players out there, isn't he? He can take anything to the house. He's a receiver as well, and they just, like you said, they look like they're going to score on every drive. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a massive favourite wide receiver of mine. He's always someone I'll look to pick up in fantasy. Not had a season like he had last year, but he's still producing at a very high level. You said about Saquon, if he gets going, he hasn't. Has he really? He's had a couple of games this year where he's been really, really good. Other than that, he's not lived up to the season he had in their Super Bowl season, where he sort of was their offense. But yeah, the Eagles they're still a very good team. You would never count them out of any game. But against the juggernaut of the Lions, I see the Lions coming out on top and getting ahead early. And then the Eagles have to rely on their passing game, which isn't their strength. It's still very good, but it's not where they want to be playing. They want to be running the ball. They want Jalen Hurts to be running with it. They want Saquon to be running with it. They want to be going over the short passing game with their tight end game. So, yeah, I see the Lions coming out on top in a very exciting game. But, yeah, Lions with not an easy win, but a win.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. We've ticked off all the games, not including AFC West teams. Obviously, we're leaving our division as biased NFL fans and reporters. We'll go with the game which is less relevant, but it's the Monday Night Football game, which on paper is obviously not as exciting as the Seahawks Rams or the Lions Eagles, but just because the Cowboys are the Cowboys this year, I think this could be a really fun game, and that's the Las Vegas Raiders against the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. This could be the game where we see Ashton Genty. I think, if you're circling a game where Ashton Genty could have that game where he is what we all saw in college for Boise State, this could potentially be that game. The Cowboys have looked slightly better on defense the last couple of weeks, but because before that it was a bit like the Bengals, non-existent. I really wish the Bengals and the Cowboys played each other at some point this year, because there would be like 150 points in that game.
Yeah, you definitely take the over.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to see what that Vegas line would be, because, on a really high-scoring game, it's like in the 50s, like low 50s. I genuinely think they'd have to make it 60. I just don't know how you wouldn't. But I still think the Cowboys win this game, said all that. I just think Lamb and Pickens and Dak's playing at a good level. And Geno Smith is arguably the worst starting quarterback in the league right now. Dylan Gabriel might take that. But the Browns have cycled through quarterbacks, as in the quarterback who has consistently played all season, Geno Smith or Tua Tagovailoa, probably would have the contest for which one of them has been the worst. As much as I think this could be a fun game to watch, I don't think it's going to be particularly competitive.
No, and I think we both agree that it's fun to watch the Raiders be this bad at football. They've got exciting weapons. They've got Brock Bowers, one of the best tight ends in the league. They're not using him to what he can be. Ashton Genty he's going to be a really good running back. He's not shown it yet. He's shown glimpses. He's shown flashes. Like you said, this could be the game where he lights it up and goes against a bad defense. But the Cowboys' offense, when it wants to be, can be really, really good. Dak Prescott, one of the better quarterbacks in the league. You know, you've got the wide receivers there in Pickens and CDs. And then the tight end is Jake Ferguson, who's, I think, statistically is the best tight end in the league this year. I think that's what I've heard anyway. But if they want to play against this Raiders defense, they have to be about 75% to go against them. But I see it a comfortable win. Raiders are going to go for a high draft pick. I think they're set on that now. Gino's hobbling around out there, not looking very, very good. But yeah, not much behind him either. So yeah, we'll both enjoy a nice Raiders loss.
Moving on then to our teams. We'll start with my team because you're on here for a reason, because the game that your team's involved in. The only word that I have for this game is revenge. It's the Chargers against the Jags in Duval, and I don't want to talk about 3 years ago. I don't want to talk about it because I still stay up at night and have horrible flashbacks to that game. And I wasn't Jim Harbaugh, this was a different era of Chargers, but god damn, I hope we win on Sunday. Ignoring all playoff ramifications and all the rest of it, I just need to put that to bed. Justin Herbert was very quite coy in the press conference this week and just dismissed any question about the game 3 years ago. He's clearly in, I'm not thinking about it, I'm just going to put right the wrongs. The Jags threw away a 19-point lead in the fourth quarter against the Texans the other day. The Chargers have won 3 straight. Brian Thomas Jr. might be back, but the trio of Brian Thomas Jr., who's been such a disappointment this year, Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington, who has had his moments, fair play to him, is not particularly inspiring right now. The Chargers on the other side, Vlad McConkey, QJ, Keenan Allen, my man here up behind me now, the Chargers all-time lead in receptions after the game against the Steelers on Sunday. So tip of the cap to him. I think just maybe this is blind optimism in my team, but I think this should be quite an easy game for the Chargers. I haven't been impressed by the Jags this season. They obviously don't have Travis Hunter now. That being said, I still have this horrible, horrible memory lingering of when I was doing laps around my front room and then just bit by bit chipping away at it. And the sudden realization, oh my God, this could be the biggest chargering in chargering history. But
and now that you have had some big chargering in Chargers history. We all know that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's littered. But it seems that the whole chargering, as Jake mentioned on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, it doesn't seem to be as prevalent with Jim Harbaugh. The chargering is gone. The whole gone are the days where we would go to teams with 2 wins when we needed to win late in the season and lose. It feels very much if you're the favourites, they're going to go win this game. I remember, I kind of have to remember this guy's name now. The running back for the Texans a few years ago, just guy bounced around the league. Yeah, can't remember his name now. And we went to the Texans, who had won like 2 games all season, and we needed to win to make the playoffs, and we lost handsomely. And that one hurt. That one really stung. I'm gonna have to get this guy's name up now. But I know you don't care for the Chargers as a Broncos fan, but do you think that they win this game? And I hope you say yes.
I do think they win. They've got out of the habit of charging. So they're a very good team. They're, Justin Herbert, I've always said is to me is on the same level as Bo Nix. They're very similar in my eyes. Herbert's probably a little bit ahead, at the moment. I see the Chargers coming and winning this game. It's a big game for playoff implications, I think. The Jags aren't out of it just yet. They've had some good wins. They're still not a team that I expect to get there, but the Chargers sitting a game behind the Broncos at the moment still scare me for the AFC West. I don't want them to keep that close behind us, especially with us playing the Chiefs this week, which could be a loss. We don't know how that's going to go. I do like I like Trevor Lawrence. I think he's getting a hard ride in the NFL. He was clearly he was the quarterback I've seen the most excitement out of coming out of the draft in a long time. Everyone thought he was going to be this sort of elite NFL legend, sort of in the making. The best quarterback we've ever seen. He's not lived up to that in the slightest. But yeah, I don't see the Jags winning this game. I see the Chargers coming out. I mean, it's a shame Hampton will be playing. I think he's a very good running back. Is he on the IR for the season, or is he coming back?
No, he won't be playing in this game, Amari and Hampton, but Chargers are on bye then in week 12. So I think the theory was rest him for this game, have the week off, and then potentially back for week 13.
Yeah, Chargers win, keeping it close at the top of the AFC West. So yeah,
I hope so. Points to anyone who got the name Rex Burkhead from my description, who in that game, I've just looked it up, back in 2021, Boxing Day, that's right, ruined my Christmas. The 7-7 Chargers went to the 3-11 Houston Texans and conceded 24 points in the fourth quarter, with Rex Burkhead having 22 rushes for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. I hate that guy. I hate that guy so much.
I'm going to organise for him to come on the show next week. We're going to get him on.
Thanks for ruining Christmas, Rex. Yeah, that would still haunts me, that one. The Chargers should just never play the Texans. I think that's the bottom line here. And hopefully we don't have to play the Jags. Beat them and just get it done with. The reason you're on is to talk about the big one in our division, but also the ramifications are enormous for the AFC, and that is the Broncos against the Chiefs. The Broncos are 8-2, and the Chiefs are 5-4. Now, the Chiefs last season kept winning games and we all hated them because they were winning games, fortunately. The Broncos haven't quite been like that. Well, I think we actually discussed it in the first podcast ever for this show. You were like, I don't like the Chiefs. They've got some voodoo magic. They don't deserve half the wins they've had. And I'm not saying the Broncos are to that level, but there have been some games this year where the Broncos have got away with it, let's say. You touched upon the Giants game already. If the Broncos win this game and go 9-2 and the Chiefs drop to 5-5, the division, well, the Chiefs' hopes of winning the division are done. The Broncos aren't dropping 4 more games, even though they play the Chargers again and the Chiefs again. So this must be huge. I mean, you must be really quite tense going into this game because it's less the risk of losing, more the reward of winning.
Yeah, I'm incredibly nervous for this one. I think we stack up very, very well against this Chiefs team at the moment. We have the opportunity that no one has had in the AFC West for a long, long time. What baffles me is they're still the favourites for the Super Bowl on the betting sites. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, that's a league bias there. If anything's on there, they like to keep them relevant. It's a big game. It's a huge game, but I think it's a bigger game for the Chiefs than it is for the Broncos. Broncos sitting pretty at 8-2. We're missing some big players this week. We've got reigning defensive player of the year, Pat Satana. He's out still. Probably be back after our bye week. Didn't place him on IR. J.K. Dobbins, who's been a revelation in the run game, he's out with a toe injury, I think, or foot injury. But we're not quite sure on the time frame. Alex Singleton, obviously, I don't know if you've touched on him in the podcast, but he's had that news about his cancer, which has been successfully treated, but he's out this week as well, meaning Dre Greenlaw will get the start, which is exciting. He's notably known for stopping Travis Kelce in the Super Bowl until he got his injury jumping up and down on the sideline in that mad moment. But yeah, we stack up fairly well. I'm confident, but I'm also not confident in a way. But I think if we win, I'll be happy. If we lose, I'll still be confident going into the rest of the season. I've got a stat for you here that Patrick Mahomes has lost, his record in games where he's been pressured over 25% of the time. He's 1-4, I think, this year. When he's not pressured that much, I think he's 4-0. The Broncos rush at a 50% rate this year, which is double that. With obviously you've got Benito and Cooper, and then behind him you've got Allen and John Franklin Myers. We're getting sacks from all over the field, really. Dondre Tillman, I don't know if you've heard of him, the backup lineman. He's got 2 interceptions this year. And I think he's returned both for like 40 yards as well. So he's an exciting player to watch. But yeah, it's going to be a close one. I will always back my Broncos to win, but we need the offense to start firing. I've never supported an 8-2 team where the fan base is still so negative. They are not happy out there in Broncos country. It's like, we're top of the AFC West. We're sitting pretty 8-2, and you're still moaning. And probably rightly so. The offense has been terrible. They got booed off last week. They just couldn't move the ball, and they've got
It was
receivers.
an awful game to watch. That was. It was a dreadful game.
And I've watched some horrendous games this year. So, but we got the job done, and that's all that matters in football, the wins. So, Bonix has got this uncanny knack at the moment of just pulling it out when he needs to. He had the best drive of the game, and that was all that needed to happen to win the game. But he needs to pull that back. He needs to get Engram involved. RJ Harvey's got a big chance to step in as running back one and show what he's got out of college. But yeah, it's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah, on the other side of the field, obviously you mentioned J.K. Dobbins out for the foreseeable with a foot injury. Pacheco is out, so both RB1s on paper out of this game, although the Chiefs do get Simmons back on the offensive line, which is massive for them. So
Yeah.
I know that's why the Chiefs will be feeling confident. I kind of have from my Chargers standpoint, have quite a relaxing time with this game because if the Broncos win, all of my predictions for the whole of this podcast since its inception look right. I look like a genius. I said the Broncos would win this division comfortably, and I have done for months. And then obviously the Chiefs lose ground on the race. They'll make the playoffs. Even if they lose, they have a 60% chance of making the playoffs because the team they're competing with to get in is the Jags. So, they probably get in regardless. But if the Chiefs win, then the Chargers are probably... Well, it's in the Chargers' hands then to go and win the division and get a home playoff game. So, yeah, I think I'd probably prefer to see the Broncos win it just to end the reign of terror in the AFC West that we've both been suffering with for a decade. But I don't like rooting for the team that are above my team to win because that feels slightly counterproductive. But yeah, there isn't really a bad case scenario here for me. Either way, I'm going to come out of it feeling pretty happy, but I'm looking forward to watching it. It should be a good game. I think the Rams-Seahawks game could be a really high-scoring game. I feel like this game is going to be more a tense, gritty, low-scoring affair. Not that the quality won't be there, but it's just a different type of quality.
Yeah, it's going to come down to the fourth quarter.
Defensive battle.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if there's more than 10, 15 points in it with, when you enter that fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It might end up 2 scores, but yeah, I think this will be a close one. So I'm looking forward to it. Mark, thank you for running through all the games with me today. It's been a pleasure to have you back on. I don't know if I usually say good luck to the teams of the guests we have on, but it's usually the Bills with Jake, and I don't mind what happens in the AFC East. Good luck. Let's just hope we vanquish the Chiefs. I think that's the message here. Fingers crossed there. Mark is over on X at Mark on Broncos, and if you are a Broncos fan listening to this, Broncos Europe is a fantastic group and page that Mark has set up and run himself. So make sure to go and follow that. If you're a Chargers fan, avoid it. No, Mark has done some seriously good work with that for the Broncos community here in the UK, and has got his own merch as well as he's wearing here in the video if you're watching on YouTube. So yeah, mate, it's been a pleasure. Good to have you on, and we will have you on again, I'm sure, maybe as another postseason episode as it all started back in January. That'd be quite nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be great. And just thank you again for inviting me on. It's always good to talk ball. So go Broncos.
Anytime. Thank you to listening. Remember, you can go follow us anywhere on social media at Join the Huddle UK. You can watch this on YouTube. Give us a 5-star listen if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or even on the Huddle UK website where you can find the podcast as well. I've been the host, Philip Marsh, as always. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you next week on the Huddle UK podcast.